Sure. Welcome back to the current review. My name is Thompson Madu, sometimes known as TT. Today, we have the privilege of being engaged by young people from the various political parties in our country and in the Free State. For these interesting debates that are taking place in our country around the elections that are coming up in a few days. I think about 18 or 17 days from now, we should be having the decision of the people of the country as to who they want to govern them. And we have different political parties who are trying to influence the vote in their way. But today we are focusing this debate as Central News and the current review on young people of the Free State, and young political parties in the Free State represented by young people today. On the panel, we have Mr. Tolani Tseletsele, who represents the African National Congress. We have Honorable Karabo Khachau of the Democratic Alliance. We have Mr. Thabiso Mokhatla of the Action SA. They are all representing today the youth perspectives from their political parties. And I want us colleagues to make this debate more about what you as political parties have to offer for young people, rather than it being me talking a lot. This is going to be about you, but also I want this debate to be as free as possible. Give each other the opportunity to speak. If somebody says something that you do not necessarily agree with, don't shout and howl at them. Wait for them to finish their point, and then having made a note of that, you will respond when. But I'm going to start it thus. I'm going to give each what does Action SA have to offer for young people, and as maybe I should provide like even more guideline, but of course you will do it as you are, as what your party actually has in store. You don't have to adhere to exactly what I'm saying, but the many young people that we've spoken to, complain about economic opportunities. These including jobs, enterprise development opportunities, the questions of landlessness, for agriculture, residential, and business spaces. There's also the issues of access to quality healthcare, access to higher education, skills training, and even primary and secondary education. So for these particular things and the more that you have, you would have prepared as a political party, what do you have to offer for young people in the Free State? Thabiso Mokhatla, let's start with you. I don't know if Thabiso can hear us.
Okay, thank you so much to the host and tweet. I can hear you, sir. Am I audible now?
You are.
Thank you so much. Greetings to everyone who's listening from home, all the listeners, and thank you for this opportunity. So we as Action SA, we pride ourselves in economic prosperity, because now, if you can see, our country is falling apart. So Action SA is going to propose a bill once we are in government, and Mr. Mashaba as president. We will propose an opportunity fund bill, and through that bill, we will introduce a 5% tax to all the big businesses. So all those big businesses, through our projection as Action SA, we saw that we can accumulate close to 55.7 billion. And whereby through that 55.7 billion, 10% of the initial amount will go towards tertiary education, and 35% will go towards infrastructure development in deserving communities, and 30% will go to small business funding, and 25 will go to further investment. So when you speak about small business funding, that's why we speak more about economic growth that creates job opportunities. So Action SA will support investors and potential job creators. We will also invest in entrepreneurial funding by 30%, as I've already alluded, of all the income generated through the Action SA Opportunity Fund. We also aim to transform South African cities into hubs of entrepreneurship by commissioning hijacked buildings and unused factories. As you know, that in Botshabelo there are currently an industrial park, and most of the factories are not being used. In Kwakwa as well, there is, and even in Tabanchu, there is also a commercial airport that has been in ruins. So we as Action SA government, we aim to resuscitating such infrastructure because it's important for economic development. We also want to introduce internet access to townships as well, because now for there to be economic prosperity and for young people to be involved in such, they need access to internet. So we as Action SA, we will look into partnering with the private sector to deliver broadband internet connectivity to low-income houses. For students in particular as well, for students who are still studying in high school level and tertiary level as well, to assist them. So Action SA also prides itself in securing our borders, because once we can secure our borders, because if you know, in Fixback, in migrants from Lesotho, some of them don't even use their passport to get into our country. They move in and out as they please. Some of them even move substances that destroys our communities. So we need to strengthen our borders, whereby we need to work closely with Home Affairs. We also want to increase good working relations between the South African Defence Force, the BMC, and SAPS as well. So we also want to prioritize in reviewing scale skills of these immigrants who are coming from Lesotho, Swaziland, Mozambique, or Zimbabwe. But particularly focusing on the Free State, our biggest problem is the immigrants who come from Lesotho, because some of them have turned themselves into mafias, and they have taken spaces whereby it needs to be taken by young people. Because if you know, you can go to any let's say markets around our townships, even our spaza shops as well. They are not being owned by particularly South Africans. So we as Action SA, we want to reclaim those sectors, because those sectors doesn't really need that much of skill, or I can say formal education. So we also want to look more into introducing something called inclusive economic empowerment. So through this act, it's basically just like BEE, but we want to remove the racial connotation of Black economic empowerment. Although Black people were historically disadvantaged in South Africa, but this act closely looks into empowering each and everyone, whether you're Indian, whether you're white, you're Black, or you're African. So through the Opportunity Fund, we'll be able to achieve that by funding young businessmen who have great ideas and who will want to advance the economy of the Free State in South Africa at large.
Thabiso and Mr. Mokhatla, and I hope that you have said all that you wanted to say in your introductions. I did say 2 minutes, but I just wanted to give to say all the things that you wanted to say. If you are satisfied, I'm going to move on to the next person. I must just get an indication from you with your thumbs up if you are happy with your opening statement, then you don't want to add anything else.
No, I just wanted to add 2 points as well, because I wasn't nearly done, so I thought my time was done. But okay. I also wanted to touch on the establishment of law and order that will uphold a just society. So we want to focus more on corruption, because we have a lot of corruption within the public sector. So we want to establish specialized courts to deal with corruption. We also want to create an independent Chapter 9 anti-corruption unit, which will focus more on corruption cases, so with alleged ANC cadres, including people like the Mayor Kolani himself. So we also want to introduce more of police and justice reform, whereby we will reduce government expenditure, even the VIP protection. I think even even the mayor himself has bodyguards. I don't know why he will need bodyguards if he lives in Jagersfontein. But we want to allocate such funds towards crime prevention and more visible policing in our townships and also squatter camps that are found in our communities. And lastly, Action SA will also establish more crime units, because combating different crimes requires specialized tactical approaches and expertise. So we want to investigate and also specialize in anti-gangsterism, financial crimes, and organized crimes, and also economic sabotage. And lastly, we want NPA to hire more prosecutors. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mokhatla. And, I think politicians should consider becoming rappers, because there are so many shots fired here. Beef, 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 beef. We're going to give the opportunity now to another political party, to the Honorable Khachau, to give their perspective as the Democratic Alliance for the benefit of young people in the Free State. Ms. Khachau?
Thank you so much, Stu. Just for clarity, the briefing received last night was that each political party would have 15 minutes to present. Is that still the instruction? Can I strictly stick to that? Or do you have another time frame? Because I had prepared
it. Go right ahead. Yes.
All right. Thank you so much. I want to say hello to you, hello to my co-panelists, to your producers, and also say hey to everybody who's viewing, and say thank you so much for taking the time to engage. For young people particularly, I think it's critical for us to engage with what political parties have in store for us, because it is our future that is at stake. I'm going to break down my presentation in three forms. One, I'm going to deal with the general youth populace about what it is that we want to do. The second breakdown will be on our offer for the student community, and then the third offer would be for the overall offer, our manifesto offer for South Africans. Let's just start with the general youth populace, right? The greatest thing standing between ourselves and our success and making it in life is unemployment. Currently, you have 7 out of 10 young people in South Africa who are unable to put food on the table, let alone acquire an opportunity to just bless a girlfriend there how, or live how and have your own house. And the reason why we find ourselves where we are right now is because of the economic policies that we currently have in our land. So that's where we start. We need to start by creating opportunities that will ensure that we increase the number of people who are able to find jobs, to make sure that we create 2 million new jobs and afford people an opportunity to put food on the table, to find opportunities to live meaningful lives. So that's the first thing that we need to do, the creation of jobs. So how are we going to do this? The first is, so there are multiple things that we need to do. So there are 5 primary policy areas that we are looking at that will turn around, that will equal to 2.5 jobs altogether. The first thing will be the easing of doing businesses. Currently, we have a whole lot of red tape that impedes businesses' ability to do business effectively, to create jobs. So we want to deal with, we want to make sure that those policies are dealt with. We want to make sure that the government infrastructure expenditure is in line with the interests of businesses. Because, for example, I'm going to use Mayor Tsaletsele's municipality as an example. You currently go to any town in all of his 9 Kopanong municipality towns, there is no 100% supply of water there. There's no business that wants to invest in a town where they don't have water forever and ever. There is no business that wants to invest in a municipality where electricity supply is a challenge. There is no business that wants to invest in a town where the road infrastructure network there is problematic. So this is the first step that you do in making sure that the ease of doing business is in line with the outcomes that we want, right? So that's the first thing. And we've seen that in easing doing businesses and working around regulations around tax as well, because the last thing we want is to overburden businesses and tax them more when already we don't have enough businesses. Instead, what we're supposed to be doing is having collaborative efforts with the business sector to ensure that there is more investment attraction, but also to make sure that we do get more jobs out ultimately. So that's the first thing. And we've seen that in our calculations, this will create between 350 and 400,000 jobs. The second thing that we need to work on is on our fiscal policies. The fiscal policies in the nation right now do not incentivize people to get jobs. Neither do they lead to the effective outcomes of sustainable jobs for young people. So how do we fix our fiscal policy? The first thing that we do is we turn our social relief grant, the 350, and turn it into a job seekers grant. So this also shows investors that as a nation, we're interested in making sure that young people become active economic participants who will not only give them the satisfaction of business growth, but also will give them the comfort of economic participation that will in turn again give satisfaction to their profits. That's what we want. And we've seen in our calculations that this will in turn give us 350 to 450 jobs. Then we need to work on our labor policies. We need to work on the regulation of our labor policies currently in our nation to make sure that we have growth enhancing policies that will translate into jobs. And we can only create employment by generating labor absorptive opportunities that absorptive economic growth, which enhances creating high number of employment and investment. And this is why we want to focus on this, to ensure that we have a labor force participation that meets the threshold we need for youth participation. And we've seen that by just working on the labor policies of the nation, we'll be able to create between 700,000 and 1 million jobs just by working on our labor policies in our country. And then this will also in turn then work on industrial policies as well. These industrial policies are well matched with the ease of doing business, which will translate to over 400 to 500,000 jobs. And then by the time we get to our trade policies, by working on the relationship between our unions and our employees and making sure that that relationship works, we would have already been able to satisfy the need of between 100 to 150,000 jobs. This then gives us the tally of 2 million jobs. And we're saying this because where we govern in the Western Cape, we've shown that we have the capacity to implement these effectively, even within the restrictions and limitations of national powers. In the Western Cape, we've been able to create majority of the jobs created in South Africa. When you look at all the number of jobs that have been created in the last 5 years alone, 79% of those jobs come out of one province, that is the Western Cape alone. While there were jobs that were being shedded during COVID-19, the Western Cape government, DA-led government, was able to attract investments. And this all has to do with the principle of ease of doing business, which is the principle of fiscal policies as seen in the province and as seen in the city of Cape Town. And this is important to note, because when many people talk about how do you know you can do it? The stats I'm giving you are not Karabo Khakao statistics or the DA statistics. They are Statistics SA's statistics. They are the ones that tell us that last year alone, when 70,000 new jobs were lost, 70,000 more jobs were lost in the Free State, 300,000 new jobs were created in the Western Cape alone. When in the previous quarter leading up to that year, last year, you had 98% of all jobs created across the whole of South Africa coming out of one province, when the 8 combined ANC was only able to account for 2 jobs. And the matrix the writing is on the wall. It's very easy to accomplish these things. It all requires a state that is competent, a state that does its policies and government mandates based on evidence that is provided. So that is the first thing that has to do with with what we have to offer young people as far as jobs are concerned. When we look at our student populace right now, we have a problem where we have young people who are unable to successfully complete their education because there's a problem in NSFAS. So we have solutions that we want to introduce as far as the higher education is concerned. One, in order to ensure that NSFAS works, we need to start with a skills audit of all employees within the sector and the replacement of unqualified cadres with qualified, non-politically appointed employees. The second thing that we need to do is to have thorough investigations that are matched with prosecution of all acts on corruption seen within the sector. That will go a long way. In order to reform NSFAS and to create a sustainable funding model in partnership with the private sector, we need to look at how we're going to restructure our funding model. So how we restructure the funding model is by scraping the idea that everybody gets to get free education, because that's not going to get us where we need to be. What we need to do is to fund people on the basis of their needs, right? Because I don't believe that must be afforded the same funding opportunities as Johan Rupert's grandchildren. That does not make sense altogether. So we need to have a tiered funding model. So for people who have incomes that fall between 0 to 350, then we're supposed to to have 100% funding. For 350 to 350 to 600, we need to make sure that we have 66%, and then from there we need to reduce it accordingly. And this is a means calculation that matches not only a calculation of the poor's participation or the ability to educate their children, but also looks thoroughly at the missing middle there to ensure that people who are in the middle class are able to also step up and be able to fund their kids accordingly. So these are the things that we're looking at, right? And the other thing that we want to do as far as NSFAS is concerned is the decentralization of the administrative function of NSFAS. Currently, we don't have NSFAS available at all institutions of higher learning. If you need to get NSFAS, you need to go to Cape Town to be able to do so, whereas each institution is supposed to have an office that will be able to speedily address queries that study students, because we know that their portal does not work. The ICT is in shambles, as is the entire entity itself. So we also want to work on scraping the accommodation cap, the blanket accommodation cap, because accommodation ya Willow alinding versus accommodation ya Rondebosch UCT will never be the same. The property rates are not the same there. So you can't tell landowners Willows and the landowners Rondebosch to charge the same prices. So we need to have market related costs there when we cap accordingly. The other thing that we want to do for students as well is to have a free market regulated by the Competitions Commission for private student accommodation providers. And we've seen how that then turns into greater competition. Greater competition is greater supply. Greater supply then means we upkeep the options available and ultimately turn around the demand, right? And the last thing that we want to do for students in particular is to have a public-private partnership for student accommodation. That way we're able to not only use private accommodation, but we're also able to look at the reprioritization or repurposing of state-owned properties that could serve the purpose of student accommodation. These are but a few of things that we want to do for the student community. And these are things that are important, particularly because while we're all calling for Minister Nzimande to not come back as a minister in the 7th administration, if anything, the minister should have been fired ages ago. We also understand that the problems within NSFAS and the sector are all taller than himself. So even if we remove the man, there's still other things that we still need to do to be able to do. So those are the two things for specifically students and specifically the for the non-student market, which is the youth, right? And then I'm just going to close in briefing to say ultimately all of these solutions will mean nothing for as long as we do not end and crush corruption by making sure we abolish cadre deployment and having a merit-based appointment system across the sector, across government. These things will mean nothing if we do not end load shedding and we do not end water shedding. These will mean nothing if we do not have a capable state that is able to deliver on the basic functions that make an environment conducive for business operation. These will mean nothing if we do not halve the rate of violent crimes, including murder and gender-based violence. And they will mean nothing for as long as we do not triple the number of grade 4 students who can read for meaning. Because ultimately, and then what else are we going to do for our lives? And then ultimately, we also want to make sure that we have quality healthcare for everyone. We want to have a healthy nation, one that has quality access to healthcare, and not the sham that is the NHI bill that the president is promising everybody that we know is not going to work out. And so all of these things will make sure that we end up to an accumulative number of lifting 6 million people out of poverty, and that's how you build a nation.
Thank you very much, Honorable Khakao. I thought you were going to exhaust the whole 15 minutes because I trust that you can talk.
How much time do I have left? I can go more.
No. I think you did very well. We're going to hand over now to the ANC representative, Mr. Kolani Tsele. Kolani?
No, thank you very much. Comrade Tamsan Madu from Central News. Let me greet you and the team. And let me
our comrades, all of us in this panel are comrades.
yeah. Let me also extend my greetings to the two co-panelists, Mecha Khau, as well as the one from Action SA, Ndate Mkhatla. Good morning, comrades. My name is Xolani Tseletsele. I'm here to represent the ANC, which is an organization of the masses. It was quite interesting to listen to the two latter speakers as they are also agreeing that so far the African National Congress is doing quite very good, because what they are raising emanates exactly from what we have been doing as a country and its challenges thereof. But I do not intend to venture into what they've registered in accordance to issues of the Western Cape, as well as issues of Jagersfontein and so on, because I'm here to represent the views of the majority young people of the Free State, as I remain their political leader in terms of the African National Congress Youth League. Briefly, Tamsanga, let me first start by saying that the ANC Manifesto has got 6 priorities, and in its priorities, priority number 2 speaks of building industries as well as investing in creating more opportunities for the youth. But before we go there, we want to narrow it down to the Free State context. In the Free State, we've got a department called the STIA, which is led by the former provincial chair of the Youth League, MEC Thabo Meko, which has got great plans in terms of meeting the greater consensus on how do we create opportunities for the youth. The rural municipality called Kopanong, which was mentioned by Mekhakhao, has got deliberations. It has got deliberations with the Department of the STIA, especially on creating new industries. And these industries are not afar or away from the industrialization of our economy, which then speaks to the resolutions of the ANC Youth League, which is led by President Colin Malachi, which says that you need to industrialize for mass jobs. As we speak currently through the STIA, there are discussions as to how do you transform the rural economy into a modernized economy that is capable to meet the demands that are there in terms of job creation. While speaking of the creation of the new energy complex, your green energy, by introducing solar farms, as well as by introducing the other developmental issues that relates to your gas that we have found around the areas, especially in your Velcom area, on how can you translate that into energy creation in our province, as well as to feed the other provinces, as well as the other nations in Africa. And then the other point that we want to raise is that in the Free State, geographically, we're a province that is surrounded by many other provinces. We're surrounded by at least 6 provinces, which means that the economy that passes from other provinces passes right through the Free State. All that we need to do as the ANC, as we promise in our manifesto, is that we are going to create 2.5 million jobs nationwide. But then in the other priority of the African National Congress, which says that we must invest in our people, which is the 3rd priority, it then correlates or connects directly with the one that says we've got a plan for South Africa. We've got a plan for South Africa as our first priority, which speaks about our job plans. We're saying that if you are to invest in the masses of our people, in priority number 3, we have got to reinvest massive resources in both provincial and local government, as we are the coalface of service delivery to communities. We're saying that in order for us to address the challenges that comes with our advancement, giving water to communities remain our advancement, and such an advancement comes with its own challenges. We're saying in order for us to be able to deal away with water shedding, deal away with load shedding, you have got to invest in local government as well as your provincial government by ensuring that the decentralization of such an energy of both water and of such an economy of both water and your energy. You have got to invest in these localities in order for them to be able to carry that particular challenge as a way of addressing the issues that are raised by the masses of our people. And then the other one that we want to deal with is priority number 4, which then speaks to how we as a country have managed to realize that the more the population grow, the more that the poverty lines are also multiplying. In Marxism, we call it social reproduction, is that the more your society grows, the more the society reproduces the problems or the challenges that are there. So as an organization that is able to analyze these particular contradictions, because we are taught in the African National Congress that any source of contradictions that is there must be able to come with issues of development, because contradictions in their nature, they are not supposed to be destructive. So in order for us to deal with the contradictions, we need to come up with progressive solutions to such contradictions. And I've also heard that the opposition is trying to reverse all the gains that we've done as a country. For an example, as an organization, utilizing the theoretical analysis through the National Democratic Revolution, is that us is to be able to resolve the internal contradictions post-94. We've come into 1994 with a society that is highly divided, to an extent that there were areas that were only reserved for whites, there were areas that were only reserved for the coloreds, there were areas that were only reserved for the Africans, there were areas that are only reserved for the Indians. But we as the African National Congress, we have said in 1994 through the Reconstruction Development Program that we need to build our nation for an equal society. We've been able to also include your traditional councils, your traditional leaders, in order to work with the African National Congress to deal away with the segregation laws that we found ourselves in 1994. But also as the African National Congress, we have done a lot so far, and as we advance into the next 30 years as a governing party, we're not immune to critique, we're also not immune to the problems that have been raised by communities. And the manifesto that we're carrying to the registered population in the Free State, I think in the Free State, the registered voters are 1.453 million. And there are also unregistered voters in the Free State, of which we say whether they are unregistered or not, but as a government or a leading party, we have been able to even develop those who have got negative sentiments with regard to voting and so forth. But as the African National Congress, we are sure that what we have done so far, we are doing quite very well. In many communities, there were no water. Today, there is water. In many communities, there were no connections of water and sanitation. We've been able to connect it. In many communities, there was no electricity. We were able to connect electricity. In many communities, there were many matriculants who were roaming around without access to higher education. We have managed to do it. There's no problem with NSFAS. The only problems that are there with NSFAS is the management thereof, not necessarily that NSFAS has not done anything so far. When you compare the last 10 years that we have been in, from 2009 to 2017, the number of students that were funded vis-a-vis the number of students that were funded from 2017 to this far, that number has doubled, meaning under the leadership of President Ramaphosa, we have managed to double funding to students in 5 years within a period which is extremely amazing. And we're continuing to fund many students who come from rural areas. We have managed to rebuild the TVET sector, transform it into an attractive center of learning and skills development. And those are the issues that we are raising in our manifesto, that TVET colleges across our provinces have managed to cater for young people who want to be trained in engineering and other artisan skills. We have also transformed the provincial governments by introducing a section where young people are able to advance their their own business interests through set asides and so on. And these are the issues that our young people and our communities are raising as we are doing door to door. We know it's not enough. We've got a variety of issues that we're dealing with, and those are the issues that we've been responding to as the African National Congress. Then our last priority is a priority that deals majorly with your internationalism, or to build at least one Africa. We're not saying that as the African National Congress, we are going to ensure that the people who come from Lesotho to our country are regarded as subhumans. But as the African National Congress, we've got great immigration laws, we've got great minister in the Department of Home Affairs who works day and night in ensuring that there are proper immigration laws. The reason why I'm raising this issue is that we ourselves as the African National Congress, we would have not reached this particular point if we did not work with our neighboring countries, as well as countries like your Cuba, your countries like Zimbabwe, your countries like Lesotho, Zambia, Tanzania, and many other countries that ensure that we are here today because they've been able to support us as a country, as well as us as the African National Congress that did a lot of international work. That is why we are found in solidarity with the people of Palestine, with the people of Western Sahara, with the people of Swaziland, with the people of Cuba, with everyone across the globe who is still oppressed and under an apartheid system that seeks to treat them as subhuman. But we as the African National Congress were also confident that the ANC Youth League is today in the forefront of ensuring that the policies that relates to the issues of young people are implemented. We're also confident that as the African National Congress Youth League, the ANC will emerge victoriously in these coming elections and other coming elections. But let us also go to the issues of the economy. Both the DA and the Action SA has written their manifestos. I think the manifesto of the Action SA is about 73 pages long, and the other manifesto of the DA, I think it's about 52 or 53 pages long, which says absolutely nothing in terms of what is it that they want to offer. Instead, they have expressed a lot of Daily Maverick articles that are confused as manifestos, raising only problems but not solutions. But we, as the African National Congress, the manifesto that we carry is a manifesto that belongs to the masses of our people. We did not go and sit in a research room to receive this particular manifesto, but we went to each and every community, be it Machabeng, be it Litsimeng, be it Mangaung, be it Maluti, be it Setoto. We have went door to door to ask the people to give us a manifesto, and they've given us their manifesto, which has got 6 priorities. And we as the African National Congress, we're carrying their aspirations, we're carrying their dreams, we're carrying everything that they seek to achieve for this country. And they will also vote for their organization, because this organization does not belong to me, does not belong to the president, does not belong to the premier, but it is a heritage of the masses of our people. And as a result of that, the people will defend their heritage and advance their aspiration and needs through their own heritage. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tsele. I think we maybe Thabiso was disadvantaged with the introduction of our times there, but I do think that he did say enough of what he wanted to say, and then more he will be able to say in the questions and answer sessions. And I can hear that Tsele is has read the manifestos of the DA and of the Action SA, and he knows how many pages each of the manifestos has. I wonder how many pages is the manifesto of the ANC, and the fact that they have went to people door to door to get what the people actually need. This is something that I would assume that they would have done in the past 6 elections that we've had, national and provincial. But having done that, have they been able to deliver the promises that they made to the people as they got these manifestos directly from the people, as they say. Tebogo, what is your take from what we've heard so far? And do you have any questions that we would want to ask to our guests today?
Short terms, now, to be honest, I hear all the manifestos, the similarities in there, and promises all the political parties are making and all that. But not the ultimate issue, what happens after the elections? Because all of them keep on saying, we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But after the elections, have you seen what happens with our politicians? They are nowhere to be found. Right now, you can reach them. If you call them and you send them WhatsApps, you get hold of them. But after elections, that's the biggest problem with all political parties. It's difficult to get hold of political leaders because others will be claiming we're in meetings and all that. But now I believe for it, South Africa has a great opportunity for change. And most of these political parties, they keep on referring to one thing, but they are not addressing the one issue that is actually holding this country back. And that's racial economic division and thing. You understand? And most of the manifesto stuff, they're not talking about issues that are addressing the social issues like racial division, economic division, but poverty showing us flames. And our country we keep on fighting the same thing over and over. And for example, I can easily say it's one topic that the ANC doesn't want to talk about, the DA doesn't want to talk about, and I'm not hearing Action also talk about it. But even every single day, we see cases of racial issues being raised, people swearing at each other, killing each other, and farm killings. Like last week, we had a farm killing here in Bloem, not far from an elderly couple that was killed. And we know it's going to be a racial issue that we keep on talking about it. And 30 years into democracy, can also be talking about such situations, about poverty and all. And also the ANC is not talking to people in terms of economic freedom. It's something that they've been preaching for the past 30 years. We're going to give people economic freedom. We're going to give them opportunities. But there seems to be gatekeepers that are actually making it difficult for people to access those states. Because at the end of the day, let's call a spade a spade. The economy is still being run by white people. It's the minority. I mean, like, look at this country. We're all depending on a few families that are actually holding the country. They control the country. When are we going to see Black people actually being in those positions whereby now we are billionaires, we are making changes? But the next thing, when you see a Black person arising and actually acquiring certain things, corrupt, the corrupt activities, it's dirty money, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's why, if you look at it proper, there is so many issues that haven't been dealt with for the past 30 years that have been swept under the carpet. And unfortunately, if we don't go back and deal with those skeletons in there, we're going to have post-traumatic stress for the next coming 30 years. And we can change. There can be a new party that comes in. But if they're going to ignore issues and sweep them under the ground, under the carpet, nothing will actually happen. So now in this situation, my question is one thing. I hear the manifestos, but what are those political parties going to do for me if I vote for Action SA or DA or ANC? What's in it for me as a voter? That's the question that they need to answer. Don't tell me about what the ANC has failed to do. Don't tell me about what the DA has failed to do. But tell me about what's in it for me as a voter, because my vote right now is the most important thing for all of these political parties. That's my opinion.
But I do think, to their credit, Debs, they do say in their manifestos that we're going to be bringing a better regulated healthcare service in the country. We're going to be creating opportunities for work. We're going to be rescuing SA. They do say that they're going to do that for the voter. But I think let's also narrow it to the Free State. The Free State has got 3 million people in terms of the population, and 38.5% of these people are unemployed. That is almost over 1 million people who are unemployed in the Free State. Karabo, Thabiso, how are we going to, because that seems like relatively quite a small number compared to what the country has. If you are to target the Free State and get rid of unemployment in this particular province, what is it that you would do as a political party? Let me start with you.
No, thank you very much, Comrade Tamsang. And let me also welcome the inputs that were made by the previous speaker before you came in. I think let's agree that unemployment is a crisis, not only in our province but also throughout the country. But this crisis also comes with systemic challenges. I think the latter speaker has raised it correctly to say the symbiotic nexus of our economy between race and the economy itself is that it lies largely with the inequality, that the white population is much more welfare than the African or Black population. And in this instance, as the African National Congress, we have been able to say through our strategy and tactics document that our approach to the economy or our approach to the developmental state, we are having a CC approach. But the reality is that once we are unable to deal with the racial inequality in terms of the economic standing, is that as a solution to provide to the question asked, is that we need to understand the dialectics of base and superstructure. Is that what we are not winning on the base, we are not going to win it in the superstructure, which is politics. So if we are to able to transform and radically change the base, then you'll be able to say politically, this is what we have been able to achieve, and we have managed to reach that particular point of racial equality as well as gender equality, because those are the sources of the problems that we are facing as a country. But if I were to be given a chance to deal away with the question of the unemployment rate, the first thing that one is going to do is to sit down with Gagau as well as Action SA to say your manifestos were written from Stellenbosch by the group that wants to ensure that the economy of this country doesn't change. So what we need to do is to go to your voters, which are largely the white population in farms, the white population that is in control of industries, to tell them that the first thing that you need to do is to do what the ANC has done. Throughout the 30 years, the ANC has managed to make over 200,000 workers to have shares in various companies. Those are statistics. Over 200,000 workers to have shares in many companies in this country. And number two is that when you look at the registered voters, especially from 18 years to 40 years, we've got around 520,000 registered voters. And we say that is the youth vote, meaning half of the voters, almost half of the voters for these elections in the Free State, they are young people, they are youth, they are our population. And almost double that number of registered voters, around 38%, which says around 1.4, 1.5 million young people are unemployed in this province. But where are they based? They are based in our rural communities, they are based in farms, they are based in the city, which is Mangaung, as well as your semi-cities like your Velkom and Bethlehem, as well as Paris and Sasolburg. And those areas are areas where the African National Congress, through the Department of the STIA and through the Premier's office, has come up with initiatives that says we need to ensure that we revive our our SEZ, that is the Thabo Mofutsanyana, your special economic zone. You revive your manufacturing capacity, which is there in Botshabelo, Tabantu. You also introduce other areas where you can invest in manufacturing. Once you invest in manufacturing, it speaks to industrialization, and your industrialization also speaks to mass job creation. So that's the only way we'll be able to address the questions of unemployment. But what you also need to raise is that the young people in society are not inherently a class, but they are a strata who vacillate between classes. So this particular strata is a strata that has got energy that must be invested into the economy. So if you are able to ensure that majority of the youth are ably used within the economy, then you'll be able to say your economy is growing. You are able to say there are many other job opportunities that can come for many others who want these opportunities. But so far, I think the African National Congress Manifesto, through its content, responds correctly to say we need to consolidate industrial and sectoral master plans in order for us to be able to create jobs. You need to involve your international investors into the economy to invest and be able to create jobs. Thank you very much.
I think that let me take this question to Thabiso. The same question. The 1.1 million unemployed people in the Free State, majority of whom are young people, I think about 60% thereabout. How are you going to reduce that number if you get into government in the Free State?
Okay, thank you so much again, Mr. Tasanka. So particularly what the speaker just said, that large parts of the Free State is rural. So for us to achieve that goal of creating more employment or providing skills, we need to look into rural economic development, whereby agricultural land reform will be our number one priority. We'll transfer unusable arable land owned by the state to emerging farmers. And we need to take this opportunity to also applaud that there are particularly good white farmers who have been producing food and a lot of things in the Free State. These white farmers can also assist in helping emerging young black farmers as well. Farmers will be presented with long-term leases that permits them to buy the land after 5 years of successfully operating their farms. This can also create employment in communities where they come from. We can also look into agricultural skills development. We'll implement agricultural internships and also mentorships that build commercial farming skills among emerging farmers to encourage the successful growth of agricultural businesses. We have the Glen Agricultural College, and we can use that college as well as providing such incentives to young and emerging black farmers as well, and particularly focus on more on female farmers. So we also need to expand our trade in rural areas. We will invest in road, rail, and water and electricity, and also fast internet services. So in that sense, those roads and rail and water and electricity services will be worked by young people. So we also need to diversify the rural economies as well. Farming is important to rural economies, but there is a room for more diverse empowerment opportunities. We will implement potential agriculture, including agro-processing, mining, and energy industries. As I've said, for us to reform the energy crisis that we have in our province or in our country, we need to also provide opportunities for independent power producers so that there can be competition between this independent power producers and ESCOM as well. And we also need to focus on rural tourism as well. As I was in Kwaku for the previous week, I've seen the beautiful landscapes, the mountains and everything. So if we had a functional government or a functional MEC who can think for the future and for the future of young people in this province, the same MEC could have supported local economies. And we will also, in the sense, as the next government, increase rural tourism by collaborating with provincial team agencies and also improving public transportation to enhance the accessibility of remote tourist destinations. Let's say that there's a visitor in Mangaung and wants to see a lodge or a mountain in Kwaku. We don't have a sustainable public transport that can move them from home here.
I don't know if it's just me or anybody else can struggling to hear Thabiso because of network connectivity
So
there.
that's where young people go in, because
Thabiso, I think let's allow you
young
to.
people now in a forecast.
I think let's keep Thabiso on mute for now until we are able to get him on a better connectivity level. Karabo,
You know,
what?
up to,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
thought the question was the same. Sorry, do you want to rephrase it?
It is definitely it is the same. Yes.
Okay. Look, I'm sitting here and you're probably seeing just how bored I am of my facial expression. And the reason why I am is because there is nothing as disgusting and disheartening as seeing disingenuous about the futures of young people, because they have satisfied their economic participation. So they have the audacity to not only lie to other young people about the capacity that they have to deliver to them, but they also have delivered to insult the intelligence of young people, not only in the Free State, but in South Africa, by making assertions that they know very well that they lack the creative or intellectual capacity to meet. So that's very problematic. And this is my observation from the mayor. Mayor Tseletsele cannot even begin to say that the ANC has gotten great rewards to the nation, when they have reversed all of the rewards themselves that they were able to give to South Africans. They've taken our democracy, spat on the graves of people who died for our democracies and the opportunities we have right now, turned it around because of their own greed and selfish ambitions. When you look now, and I say Mayor Tseletsele, his own municipality is unable to pay salaries of rural councillors and rural employees. He can't speak about the Department of Destia and his ANC government being focused on empowering our rural economies, when he knows very well that special economic zones have been shut down across this entire province because of the lack of basic provisions such as water. He cannot speak about the importance of making sure that these economic economic participation when none of his towns themselves have water consistently. All 9 towns have been living without access, uninterrupted quality access to water for over 8 years now. None of his towns have proper working roads. None of the farmers enjoy the comfort of being able to take their food to market without bumping on potholes. They spend more money on fixing roads that his provincial government are supposed to fix before they can even work their own land that they have. He cannot speak about the Free State being a central province that can attract tourism when how Free State uya KwaZulu-Natal, or when you come back from KwaZulu-Natal, coming back into the Free State, you stop at Harry Smith, you go into the lavatory, an ablution facility. You can't even flush because there's no water. He can't speak about all of those things. He can't speak about the ANC being focused on making sure that our agricultural sector works in the Free State, when his own government last year reprioritized 44 million rands worth of money that was supposed to give support to emerging farmers and support farmers that exist within the Free State. They repurposed it for other functions because the Department of Agriculture didn't know what to do with that money. He cannot also speak about the Free State government being a government that cares and that is pro-development, when the same Free State department has been able to reprioritize money. As how much is this money? I have it here with me. It's a whole 494 million rands worth of money that was supposed to work on the on maintenance of road infrastructure that benefits mostly the farming agricultural community, which is the center of South Africa's economic participation. They reprioritized it because they didn't know what to do with the money when every road in the Free State is a pothole valley. So he's being disingenuous. He's lying to young people. He's lying to everybody that is watching, and he himself is lying to himself about the capacity that exists. When we talk about the capacity for the ANC to create jobs, we also know he's lying that when he says that President Ramaphosa has now suddenly promised jobs and we are going to have 2.5 million new jobs in the Free State. We know it's a lie, because when you look at every media article that exists right now of President Ramaphosa's promises to create jobs in the country, you look in 2018, President Ramaphosa promised 1 million jobs. In 2019, he promised 1 million jobs. In 2020, he promised 300,000 jobs. In 2021, he announced that he has big plans. And we know these are all lies, because when you look at the South African youth unemployment rate alone, from 2004 to 2023, the unemployment rate moved from 36.35% to a whole 50.47%. And this is an unemployment rate that does not factor in economically inactive young people who are either full-time students or have ceased to even seek jobs altogether. But then this is what makes me upset. Again, I don't know at what point Abdi Debza joined this conversation, because he wasn't here the entire time. But if we're going to be honest about what it is that political parties can provide, we shouldn't just look at what it is they're able to say, but look at their track record. And I am bold to say I am the only panelist in this debate right now who is from a political party that has a proven track record of creating jobs. And I'm not saying that that's Karaba Khachau, like I said. Statistics SA says that itself. So if you want to know whether people are able to create jobs, compare apples with apples. The Free State last year, 70,000 new jobs were lost. The Western Cape last year, 300,000 new jobs were created. The ANC, in the last 5 years alone, was able to create, the DA in the last 5 years was able to create 79% of all jobs created in the entire country out of one province. The ANC was only able to account for the rest when they have a greater population and more other provinces, 8 provinces combined. So this is clear blue waters that shows you promises versus action. And so these are the things that...
If the DA were governing in the Free State, do you think you would have the same ability to create these jobs that you're talking about that have been created in the Western Cape? As you know, would you have the same capacity to do the same, given the fact that the jobs that were created in the Western Cape are mostly in the farming areas, I would assume. In the Free State, do you have the same agricultural landscapes that we have in the Western Cape?
So,
and would you be able to have at least half this number of unemployed people in the Free State?
We would be able to do so. And the jobs that were created in the Western Cape were not created from people drinking wine alone. We have tech industries that exist. We have up and coming fourth industrial revolution relevant job markets that are still supposed to be tapped into, such as the IT. So, and we have capacity to do so in the Free State. And the only reason why the Western Cape was able to do better than other provinces is not because we are special or there's a beach there somewhere in the Western Cape, but it is simply because our infrastructure budgets, the investment by the city and the Western Cape was geared on basic necessities that make business attraction easy, and that makes the creation of jobs easy. This speaks again to making sure that there is water, making sure that there are roads, making sure that government, the businesses have incentives that afford them the ability to create jobs. Here in the Free State, I promise you, if you can start by first making sure that if a business owner comes to your town, they have water, they have electricity, the road network works, by making sure that the population there is able to compete accordingly when it comes to seeking jobs, which is what we're trying to do with our employment certificate for young people, by making sure that we transform the social relief grant to a job seekers grant, and by making sure that we have initiatives such as those that we see in the Western Cape, where people are able to they have cards, free cars to go into the buses, the golden arrows, where if you're a young person who's registered to say you are seeking for a job, you don't have to pay for transport to move from Khayelitsha or Mitchell's Plain to go to town to look for a job. Those are simple things that are supposed to be in place that can be implemented here in the Free State. Again, the 444 million rands worth of money that the current provincial government sent back because they don't know what to do with it. If you use that money to support farmers, farmers will be very happy. Farmers will be at a greater position to not only increase their production, increase their profits, but increase their capacity to employ more people, which ultimately ensures that we decrease the number of people who are unemployed. But it doesn't even end there. On a national level, the other thing that we're supposed to do is to look at our education capacities and the skills matched with education capacities, right? Because when you have a skilled and knowledge-based workforce, they're able to then compete accordingly. These are all things we can do. And if you were paying attention, perhaps in my opening briefs around what it is that we want to do for employment, you would have heard me speak very clearly around what it is that we want to ease jobs and how much, what we want to do to ease the doing business and how many jobs that will translate into, what fiscal policies needs to be reformed and how many jobs we'll get out of there, labor policies, industrial policies, and industrial policies. I spent a good substantive time unpacking all of those things to substantiate how we are going to get to the 2.5 to the 2 million jobs that we are talking about. And these are things that I again say we have done. We have done. There's nothing about people who live in the Western Cape that is better than the people who live in the Free State. All we need is a government that can think, a government that knows how to get things done, a government that is not focused on chowing state funds and making sure that they elite connected few get to benefit. If the primary focus is the people and not the pockets of ANC corrupt cadres and their cronies, then we will get things right.
I would assume that we would want to respond to some of that before we give to Ndate Mokhatla, because he was cut off by problems of the network. Also, there is, Karabo mentions that about 40 million was repurposed from the Department of Agriculture to other things. And when you think of the fact that we say that the Free State is a mostly agricultural in terms of the economy, a mostly agricultural province, why would we not be able to spend as a province in agriculture the money that was budgeted for that and have it repurposed into other things?
No, thank you very much, Tammy. You know, I think it was 2022, if not early 2023. I was speaking to Mekha, and I invited her for a cup of coffee. And the reason why I was inviting her was that I saw that the energy is there, but it's highly misguided. And one wanted to channel it properly for her to be able to understand the issues of the Free State. I think it is also disingenuous for her to speak so boldly about issues that she doesn't know. She seems to be more informed on Western Cape issues. But let me bring her to the Free State. The Department of Community Safety Police Roads, as we speak currently, is busy regraveling roads in all the farms around the Free State. The entire farms are around the Free State. And that purpose is to ensure that at least the produced food or the produced vegetables or meat from the farms are able to reach the other areas where they are being processed for selling and so on. And two, I also find it extremely wrong for her to regard to a few as food producers. You know, the food producers in this particular country, especially in our farms, in their majority are Africans, although they are not benefiting from that particular economy. But in terms of them selling their labor to produce those food, are Black Africans. Those farm workers are the ones who take the tractors and go to the lands and plant and so on. Although the profits or the surplus value of those do not benefit them as individuals or as families. And then number two, I also want to bring to Umekha that the issues that I've been raising are issues that are written in the ANC Manifesto. And they are not promises, they are commitments. They are commitments on the basis that from one manifesto to transit to the other, we've been able to do what we have been committed to. We said in 1994 we're committing to build road infrastructure. You go to all communities, there's proper road infrastructure. You go to all communities, there are clinics. Those are the things that we committed to. But in the manifesto of the DA, which is not even a quoting or reading or at least narrating on it, is that when you read the DA manifesto where it speaks about health issues, the DA is saying openly, we're going to oppose the NHI bill. You know why they oppose it? Because the DA wants to continue with racial segregation. The DA wants to continue with the sharing of the health. There must be private health, there must be public health, and the private health must go to the wealthy. Then the public health must be the poor, must be the working class, those who are unable to go to Mediclinic or your net care or other various issues. And the DA also in its manifesto, she speaks so boldly about agricultural activities. Now, in the political economy of agriculture versus land, is that you can't separate the two wholly. But the DA says that they are going to protect property rights as enshrined in the Constitution for a few. They are also going to prioritize government-owned land to housing. But they are not saying that the current private land, how can we equally utilize it to ensure that it addresses racial inequality, to ensure that it addresses the 2 million jobs that they are raising in their manifesto. And the DA also says in terms of jobs, they are going to crush unions. The DA hate unions. The DA doesn't want the working class to be organized through trade unions. That's why they say they are going to deregulate our labor laws, trying to reverse a decision which was taken in 1994 to say we're going to introduce labor laws in this country and we're going to introduce Chapter 2 of the Constitution, your Bill of Rights, which says that when you're a worker, you have got a right to join or form a union. The DA wants to reverse all of those things. But let's go to the issues that I wanted to correct her on. Number one is that the Free State Department of Agriculture, she's mentioning money that was taken back, 40 million. But the Free State Department of Agriculture, since the current MEC of Agriculture has taken over, that department has managed to invest in communal lands. In the hometown where I come from, where there are over 100 communal farmers, the department has managed to invest more than 4 million by ensuring that there is access to water for animals, there is proper land management in terms of your grazing, there is support to the farmers in terms of their inner relations of trade. The department has also managed to fund young people across the Free State. For an example, in Betuli, the department was able to give to local African youth farmers, and in particular females, sponsoring them with sheep. In other areas like, Mufutsanyana, the Department of Agriculture has managed to give tractors to communal farmers or emerging farmers. So as the Free State, we are not raising this issue in a context which we say we are going to. We are already doing those things. All that we are saying is that we are continuing to advance those particular things of development by ensuring that we are going to invest in our people, we are going to invest in the youth. And we are also sure where we are that communities and young people across the Free State can attest to that. Yes, we agree that there are many challenges that we need to address as the African National Congress. And lastly, Tammy, the last issue that we want to raise is that we as the African National Congress Youth League, an organization of young people, we've got structures all over the province. And as we speak currently, we are saying now in this debate that immediately after elections, 29th May elections, the ANC Youth League is going to intensify a massive program that is going to be linked with community development, where young people are in each and every voting district, each and every ward. We're going to have massive campaigns in ensuring that what the ANC has committed to in their manifesto of your skills development, of your job creation, those things must happen at a local level by ensuring that there are at least gains that we have achieved as the African National Congress Youth League. And we are very much sure that currently the African National Congress in the Free State is on the right track in ensuring that we are able to create opportunities where necessary. Yes, it is true that we are a central province geographically, and also it is true that we are centered on ideas to ensure that all these surrounding provinces are able to regard the Free State as an economic hub, of which we are going to advance as the African National Congress Youth League through the elected government of the people, the African National Congress. And what I can also assure you, Tom, is that before the end of this year, we are going to recruit Kakao into the Youth League and transform her into an activist that is properly channeled, not an activist that speaks out of their manifesto and not raising the issues that their manifesto is raising. Their manifesto is anti-people. Our manifesto is pro-people. So we're seeing the energy that is there and we're willing to shape it properly. Thank you very much.
I hear you, Tele, and I hear you saying that after the elections, the ANC Youth League is going to engage in intensified campaigns to bring about changes and so on. I wonder why those campaigns are not happening before the election, such that the delivery happens before people are being voted into place. But I want to go back to Mr. Mokhatla there. Karabo says that in this panel, she's the only one that comes from a political party that delivers on the promises that it makes. I would want to say that Action SA itself, being a spawn of the DA, maybe also come from that same political party as Karabo Kakao. But you also make a point, Mokhatla, about the importance of the of digitization in the Free State. Why do you think that this is so important? For people to be connected to the digital technologies, so that like, tell me, why is it important to for you to talk about this digitization in the Free State?
Thank you so much. The telecommunications are very important because now for you to be in touch with the outside world or the global world, you can do that through your internet services such as Facebook, internet as such. Because now when we want to create a business friendly in urban centers, so the centers itself must be sustainable and aligned to the current state that we are in. Everything now is digital. We are moving towards fourth industrial revolution. So everyone must be equipped enough to be able to use a smartphone, to know what is a Wi-Fi. So we need to start introducing such programs in our communities that are undeveloped, because a person who is in Mangaung in the city and the person who is in Fontaine, it's two different people. Some people don't even know what's happening properly there. So it's the role of government to advance our people's lives and to ensure that they are in line and they are digitalized. Because now, for you to apply for a job, you need to apply online. So you must be able to use internet services. You must have access to a smartphone. You must have an email address. So if you don't get such development or you don't get such guidance, there is no way that you can get employment. So what I realized about the ANC-led government is that they don't want to equip our people to be smart enough to think for themselves. So they want to think on their behalf. Hence, till to this day, Mayor Zele in Kopano doesn't provide free Wi-Fi. But he knows the role of Wi-Fi, the role of internet access.
But is it not also the role of the private sector to come into these communities, provide internet access to the people?
Yeah.
Because many of the people will be interacting with these technologies, with the private sector companies themselves. And I can see that Karabo is, she wants to engage there, but we'll get back to it just in a minute.
Yes. Although it is the role of the private sector, but it's also the role of government to make it conducive enough for the private sector to come and invest in their communities. Because as Mekarabo alluded, that there's nothing happening in Kopano. There's basically nothing. They can't even pay salaries. So why will an internet service provider go into Fontaine and want to invest? So it's the role of the mayor himself, together with his MMCs, to ensure that government plays a role in providing services that makes it easier for the private sector to come and invest. In that sense, young people can get employed when they are putting fiber in these communities. Who gets employed? It's young people who sit in communities and do nothing. But the ANC doesn't have a plan to save our people from poverty. They don't even think of our people unless it's election time. He now speaks of the ANC Youth League and all the campaigns they're going to launch. Why are they launching them now? Where were those programs 4 years ago? The ANC Youth League was non-existent. So all this that he's saying now is he's just singing to us so that he can get votes, so that the ANC can come back in and destroy our country. So, and I want to urge all young people to ensure that they vote out the ANC and give a party that will provide a more functionable and a more suitable governance, and that will take care of them, and which is an ANC-led, Action SA-led government.
So, please tell me quickly, why must people have faith that the ANC will be able to deliver when the ANC in your municipality fails to pay these salaries? Because I think this point has been raised now, I think about 3 or 4 times. Why must people have faith in the ANC that the ANC will be able to deliver when you are failing to pay salaries of not more than 20 people in the municipality? I think Tsele connected. Karabo, you wanted to... Okay, no, he's back. Tsele?
No, I don't want to reduce the debate into a small municipality, but why are they not saying in the municipalities where they come from, the African National Congress-led government in those municipalities is paying salaries? But let me explain. Let me explain to them that they are incorrect in their thinking to say when you are from a rural municipality or rural area, there can't be investment. They are extremely incorrect. I'm not sure whether it's their ideological growth in their organizations. In Singapore, small as it is, there is no mining, but there are over 100 companies of mining in that particular country. In Kopanung, small as it is, or Haribs, rural as it is, in terms of your source of energy, and when you study the weather of Harib, it is number 2 in the country in terms of warmth. Meaning, if there are proper research, if there is proper individuals who wants to invest in terms of your solar farming, you are going to be able to invest. In Harib, there is capacity for more mining. In Harib, there is capacity to get water. There is Harib Dam in Harib. It's called Harib Dam, one of the largest dams in the country. And that particular dam is able to provide water as far as Port Elizabeth, as far as Namibia. And those are the things that we as the ANC were looking into. Those are the things that we in the ANC, in fact, there is enough evidence that you can get in the Department of Water and Sanitation, as well as provincial government, that there are plans to ensure that particular dam is going to be able to feed water into various communities. And the reason of not paying workers, it's not a deliberate decision or a deliberate plan not to pay salaries, but as internal discussions are, and a way of trying to revive the municipality to be a people's-based municipality, then we're able to get these particular challenges. But those challenges are not challenges that are going to be there forever. As we speak currently, the municipality is gazetted to say that we are going to share the municipality in half in order for us to be able to make it a more revenue collection or viable institution by introducing proper systems that relates to your energy, that relates to water, and so on. And it's not only workers that doesn't get paid. I heard Khakao saying even their DA councillor is not getting paid. But we as ANC councillors, even if we don't get paid, but as we speak, we're always on the ground speaking to our communities through our IDP, through the plans that we are having. And we are in solidarity with the workers who are not getting paid, including ourselves. But this is an institution that we are going to rebuild, and all these other issues are getting the necessary attention. And to expand my critique to the manifestos of the two organizations, they are not going into their manifestos. They are raising the problems that the ANC is having. They want to be doctors and nurses of our problems instead of allowing us, the leadership of the ANC and the people of our province, to be the nurses and doctors of the challenges that we are facing. They've got nothing to offer. In the 73-page Daily Maverick Action SA Manifesto, there's nothing to offer. There's a repetition of confused economy concepts. They are going to rebuild the township economy. They are going to do this with local tax shops. They are not even aware that we as the Free State government, we've got already institutions like through your Department of Small Businesses, working with young people, working with NYD across communities to try and revive the township economy in what we consume, in what we produce. So they are not even aware, because their manifesto was written somewhere and it was given to them. Now the 73 pages is too long to read as well as to interpret, but we are willing to continue to explain this particular manifesto of the ANC. The manifesto of
tell me, Tsele, also, why should young people take yourself as the chairperson of the ANC Youth League seriously, making these promises, when in your representation, in your list of the ANC that is going to be represented in the provincial legislature, you have less than 5 people in the list of 30? Why must we take that the ANC takes young people seriously?
Okay. No, the ANC guidelines for us to reach the list as the youth, there are certain quotas that are made on that particular list. Myself, I'm also part of the list, even though I'm not in the top 20. There's Lerato Sikisi is also part of the list. There is Kilebogile Tulo, who's also part of the list, and who are saying through that guideline that we regard the youth in the guideline from the age of 18 to 40 years. There is Comrade Dibulelo, who's under the age of 40 and still is the MEC of Public Works.
The National Policy for Youth says youth is from the age of 14 until 35. Why do you want to extend it to 40 when it is 35?
As the African National Congress, we are not saying it is inherently progressive for you to say when you're under 35 years you are old, or when you're under 35 years you are young or old. But we are saying, as the African National Congress, that in order to manage the transition from the Youth League into the ANC, those who graduate from the ANC Youth League, let's say I graduate from the Youth League, are you saying the current Youth League must not regard me because I'm no longer 35 years? We're believing in the twin task of the African National Congress Youth League that says the first one is to mobilize the young people and ensure that we build them properly, shape them, produce them, and then we deposit them into the ANC. So all of us who are under the age of 35 years, if we are to advance our needs and aspirations through government, on this side you have Kilebogile Tulu, who's very young, under 35 years. On this particular side, you have got Dibulelo, who is over 35 years, who's also very young. And we're saying they are going to be able to advance our needs and aspirations clearly, and as a way of ensuring that we are able to make the necessary interventions radically, so by ensuring that the youth benefit from the deposits of government, or they benefit from the positives of government that are there. But we want to assure you, Comrade Tami, that our manifesto is a manifesto that we did not create in Luthuli House. It is a manifesto that we went door to door to collect it, to say, this is what our people want. Our people say we must be able to reduce the price of food by looking into the value-added tax. We must be able to create jobs. We must be able to ensure that those who are differently able or disabled, they are also part of our development trajectory, and they are taken into consideration in their development projects. We're saying, as the African National Congress, re-industrialize the economy. look into your macroeconomic policy, look into your tax base, look into what other areas can be able to be that we can be able to invest into. What's saying as the African National Congress, build a TVET college, build skill capacity, invest in technology development, invest in new energies by reading away load shedding. The more we grow housing, the more you grow your communities, the more there's challenges in order for us to reproduce and give electricity to households. That is what we are saying as the African National Congress, and that is what we are going to do. And I repeat, it's not promises. It is commitments that we are making to the people of South Africa. It is commitments that we are making to the people of the Free State that we are committing as the African National Congress. We will revive economic development in the province. We will revive skills development. And we are also saying as the African National Congress, the health system must be changed. NHI is a progressive policy that the president will soon sign. I saw it and breaking news that it is going to be signed. The poor working class that is working in the mines and farms must be able to access doctors at a price that is fair, must be able to access medical clinic, must be able to say with the incentive or investment made into our health system, you must be able to redevelop Bilinomi, the Amand Hospital, Albert Nzula, Mbekweni, and all these other hospitals like your Bongani. You must be able to invest and ensure that the infrastructure that is there is able to respond to the necessary social ills that are in society. We're saying that through the ANC government, just last year, we took over 20,000 young people to the colleges of police to go and graduate, to come back and fight crime in our communities. And by the way, crime and corruption and all the issues that we as the ANC government remain the only political party across the world that said, but the corruption levels are extremely high. And as a result of that, let's put in a commission for investigations. We're the only organization that is brave enough to say, okay, come, investigate me. In other governments, you'll never get that, where there's an institution that investigates government leaders. And we are saying as the African National Congress, there is nothing wrong with cadre deployment. The only thing that is wrong is when there is corruption, where individuals come back with ideas of the political parties that they have formed. Your ACT, it was formed precisely because it wanted to sustain corruption. Your MK party, it was formed exactly because of they wanted to sustain corruption and all other these malfeasances that we have faced. Your DN Action SA remain an entity of the Oppenheimers. They can't say anything independently. I'm sure by now, as we're speaking to you, Comrade Tammy, they are receiving SMSs to say, don't raise this issue, raise this particular issue. I don't receive any SMSs. I'm a leader of the African National Congress Youth League. I receive the views from the masses of our people, and we're advancing that. And as we speak currently, in the Free State, as much as the Harib district is regarded as a rural area, and people there are anti the African National Congress. Everywhere you go, the only thing that you can see about Action SA is the boards that they've put up on the posts, but you are not seeing them anywhere because communities are rejecting them. And this particular area, rural as it is, the masses of our people are going to vote for the African National Congress because they believe their manifesto is going to be advanced by a strategic president in a form of Comrade Cyril Ramaphosa, by a strategic premier in a form of Comrade Mxolisi Dukwan, and all these other MECs who are progressive enough to ensure that they advance the aspirations and needs of our communities. They don't need to promise anything. They need to commit to what the people have said to them. This is what we want in the manifesto. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I think we'll be working towards closing right now. Before I do that, I am also receiving an SMS that Zelezele says he's not receiving. Just an SMS from the guy from Action S saying that he's experiencing connection difficulties. But I want us to close, Oscar Abone. What message do you have in conclusion, and in response to some of the things that your colleagues Tseletsele and Mohatla have said, but also I think just give like closing remarks as to what is it that the DA will do better than the ANC says it does and will do. Yes, I think let's give you that chance to close.
Look, I am worried. You see, the reason why the ANC is in shambles is because even the capacity of thinking of the Youth League itself is as poor as Tseletsele's ability to think and reason,
And
right?
Tseletsele is recruiting you to the ANC Youth League now to come and help.
No, that's terrible. I could never want to be associated with people who don't even know how to do things as simple as organize a budget in favor of their workers, let alone the people that they represent. Even if the Kopano municipality was going to be split into 2 municipalities and they have ways to generate a revenue, they will still be failing on primarily working with the equitable share that they have right now and the one that they have in future. And that's why we find ourselves in the mess that we are right now. It's not because there's something completely complex about that, which is the municipality and catering for the needs of young people in that municipality and in the Free State. But the primary problem is that the people who are responsible for the thinking capacity and the political leadership thereof lack what is necessary to develop, maintain, and sustain.
I don't know, there's some noise either it's in your background or...
No, it's Mohatla, he needs to be muted.
Could you please mute your Bongs, could you please mute your... All right, you may continue, Honorable. My apologies.
He's still not muted. Can we wait for him to be muted first?
Mute him? Okay.
Yeah. So here's what really upsets me is there's a whole lot that could go right if only we didn't defend things that didn't need to be defended. Mayor Tseletsele is the walking stereotype of a failed boyfriend and a failed husband who keeps on coming back and saying, "Askis, baby, it was a mistake," with zero capacity to improve, with zero intention to do better, with zero intention to become a better man in life. And so we reject him. We reject him here and his ANC and altogether, and this is why we're not voting for him. This is why they're feeling the pressure that they're feeling right now. What we want to ensure as far as access to healthcare is concerned, and we've communicated this very clearly as the Democratic Alliance when addressing the challenges of the NHI, is to say that our issue is not the access. Our issue is the administration thereof. You look at the South African public health system, it is in shambles. Clinics are a problem. Hospitals are a problem. Mobile clinics are a problem. The surgery operations are a problem. The dispensary of medication is a problem. If you have failed to run the current batch of public healthcare, how else must the country have faith in your ability to cater for the whole nation? So you are saying that the bits of private healthcare that work for those who have access to must also be in shambles, because if it doesn't work this side, it must not work on the right. It must have failure altogether. And this is that which we are against. To say instead what the NHI bill was supposed to achieve is to have a universal access to a healthcare bill that bridges the gap between access for the poor and access for the rich, in regulating, yes, the costs, yes, of access there, to make sure that we have competition that is broader for medical care, healthcare, medical aid companies and availabilities. That's how you solve the problem. You do not take a failing ANC who's failed to provide public healthcare and make them responsible for healthcare for everybody else. Then the whole nation is going to die, as is the case as we see in public institutions. And that's what we are against. And it is dangerous that you have young people such as Mayor Tseletsele who are able to justify such nonsense altogether, who are able to justify the death of a nation altogether. That's problematic. So in conclusion, just the last remark that I want to make right now is on our offer. Again, we've been clear. Our offer as the Democratic Alliance is this: the only way to emancipate young people, to develop the lives of young people and to give them opportunities to successfully live meaningful lives, is to give young people jobs. If you don't have an ability to put food on the table, if you don't have an ability to acquire assets for yourself and your children and your partner in life, then you are not living a meaningful life. Then that is not a quality life. And that's what we do not want. But we're saying that we're not only saying that you must have a job, we're saying we've shown that where we govern, we are able to create jobs. So when you go and vote for a government that will emancipate the lives of young people, you should then look at the track record that exists of all political parties. And the only political party in the entire South Africa that has a proven track record of providing jobs is the Democratic Alliance. We say this because all independent assessors have said this, including Stats SA, that has absolutely no reason to be singing praises to the DA, including President Ramaphosa's admission as well to Parliament about that which works within the Western Cape. We know that, forget 30 years of democracy, in the last 5 years alone, 79% of all jobs created in the entire country, come from one province. The DA governed Western Cape. And so this should show you that not only does the DA care, but the DA has the capacity and the will to ensure that young people are emancipated and they have jobs. The Democratic Alliance is also of a firm view that young people who are in education, in primary, secondary, and tertiary education must also have quality access, quality experiences of that education. It means absolutely nothing for the ANC to say that NSFAS was able to lift people out of poverty and get them to institution. If young people get to those institutions and have to doi and parade their desperation and poverty in order for things to go right, it is absolutely cruel for the ANC to say that they have done well by giving people in NSFAS when allowances are not paid in time, when people go to school and sleep hungry, not knowing where they are going to sleep, not knowing if where they are sleeping, they're going to be able to sleep there again, not knowing whether when they wake up, they'll be hungry or will have food or where their next meal is going to come from, not knowing whether they will have their tuition paid consistently or not. That is absolute cruelty, and we are against that. And this is why we've tabled the solutions that I tabled in the beginning that specifically deal with the fixing of NSFAS itself and the sector, because we maintain that while Bladen Zimande is at the heart of the problem within NSFAS, the NSFAS issues and the higher education issues are all taller than himself, and they must be fixed altogether. So we are clear as the Democratic Alliance that South Africa needs to be rescued. And the only way we can rescue South Africa is by going out in our numbers to vote out this current government that does not care about people, that has failed, that has done more lying, more chowing, and more deprivation from young people. Every indicator that measures the quality of life in South Africa shows us that whether you look at employment, whether you look at healthcare, whether you look at service delivery, whether you look at corruption, and whether you look at the quality of education, the ANC has failed. And so I refuse as a young person to say, I'm going to give those people another opportunity to mess up my life. So it is incumbent upon us to say enough is enough. Sitting at home is not going to fix the problem, because sitting at home is a ratification of status quo. The only way we can rescue South Africa and provide meaning for young people is for going to vote for a political party that has a proven track record. And this is why even Bomokhatla are in a multi-party charter formation with the DA, because they know the DA gets things done.
Before I let you go, Karab, I think it would be remiss of us not to talk about this even if it's just a minute or two. You come across as somebody who is immensely proud of being South African, and you want to get things right, for South Africa. Even the slogan of the DA says "Ready to Rescue SA." I see it in your background there. Why then would you do something that has been received as very wrong by many people, of symbolizing a burning flag of South Africa? Why would you guys do something like that?
So I think, again, when we say we want to triple the number of people who are able to read for meaning, we want to ensure that we all have the cognitive and academic capacity to engage in content critically. It is very clear when you listen to the DA, if you've watched the actual ad itself and not just heard what other people have said and seen shots, to deduce what a metaphorical expression is. So the Democratic Alliance did not burn a flag. We gave a metaphorical expression of what a burning nation is.
Which is why I use the word symbolize.
So here's the thing. The most critical and clear way to demonstrate a burning nation is by depicting that which represents the nation itself, which in this case, in the Democratic Alliance ad, is the DA, is the South African flag. So what we are saying in our ad is that the ANC has burnt this country to shambles. And not only have they done so, but if we vote for ANC-aligned political parties, we're going to burn our nation further. And we're saying this because every indicator that measures the quality of life in South Africa shows that we are a burning nation. We are in shambles. Not only has youth unemployment increased by 20% since 2004 to now, excluding economically inactive people, which if you include it, then the number is more, right? You have our schooling system that is not working. Bana ba rona ba pasa ka 30% unable to do anything meaningful in their lives. When we assess the quality of education in our schools, we're looking at nominal rates, not calculating how many people are actually passing the bachelor that have meaning, how many people are actually dropping out in the system, and how are we bridging the gap. You look at childhood stunting, where grade 4 learners, majority of them cannot read without meaning because they go to school hungry, coming from poor communities. When you look at the assessment of the quality of life and poverty in South Africa, you have the inequality that exists that we have right now, where instead of people being able to economically participate, they are shut out. When you look at the quality of governance in South Africa, you find that more state money is lost to corruption and maladministration than money spent on effectively changing the lives of people and making sure that people have water, as is the problem in Mayor Tseletsele's municipality. His people don't have water because his municipality can't pay the bills. His people are unable to put food on the table. His workers, because he can't pay salaries. His same workers are unable to get access to healthcare properly because the medical aid di lapsa, the insurance di lapsitse, the tšhelete tsa investment tsa the investment is hadiyo altogether. So these are things that are indicative of a burning nation. And so that is what the Democratic Alliance is saying. And you will see at the end of the ad is very clear. There's a restoration of the flag. A restoration of the flag means a rescued South Africa, where we have a government that cares, where we have a government like the DA government that has clean audits, where the Auditor General is able to account for which 1 rand went to which 2 rand, where we have the Democratic Alliance government, where 75% of the city of Cape Town's infrastructure budget is spent in poor communities such as your Nyanga, your Delft, and your Guguletu. That is what a restored nation is like. A restored nation is where majority of young people are employed, where young people don't have to prostitute themselves to be able to put food on the table. And I know when I look at my peers, young girls that I grew up with, that I went to school with, are unable to put food on the table, and instead they have to prostitute themselves simply because the ANC has failed to care and do that which they're supposed to do. And that's what the ad is talking about. And that's what upsets me when I have a conversation with Mayor Tseletsele, who does not care and is disingenuous. I don't want to give birth to a child in South Africa who tomorrow will be living a life that is less than mine. I don't want to give birth to a child who's unable to get quality education. And I certainly do not want to give birth to a baby girl who needs to sleep with a man in order to make it in life instead of being able to make it for themselves.
That is the Honorable Karabo Khakau, very emotional there in the last minutes of that remark. Colin Tseletsele, let's give you some time to also give your closing remarks, and maybe in the end also your comment on that symbolic burning of the flag by the DA.
I see the Stellenbosch people have made Mekgakgao to leave. I wanted to make my closing remarks while she's there, but let me also come.
She will still be able to hear your views, I think, because this thing is being broadcast on YouTube. She can get it from there.
Let me also come into defense of the many young women across the Free State who have just been insulted by Mekgakgao that they are selling themselves in order to live. I don't know where did she see them doing that, but I'm in defense of them. I'm in defense of them because in our manifesto, we're saying that there are strategic interventions we are going to make in fight against the gender-based violence. But also let me remind the young people that on the 27th to the 29th May, it will be elections. And these are the elections that requires us to focus on reality. And we must not be fooled by by the emotional blackmailing of Mekgakgao, by showing us tears and so on. We must not be fooled by that, but we must go into reality. The reality is that in the work of Lenin, what is to be done in 1901, when he wrote What is to be done, which started with various articles trying to assess the revolution of Russia and to respond to the question as to what is it that can be done in order to change the Russian perspective in terms of development, and also to ask other revolutionary questions that are in relation to the Russian Revolution. And number two is that when you read that particular text of Lenin, it is what we want to say to majority of the voters, that the African National Congress since 1912 to date wants to say to them that we are marching in a compact group along a precipitous and difficult path, firmly holding each other by the hand. We are surrounded on all sides by enemies, and we have to advance almost constantly under their fire. We have combined by a freely adopted decision for the purpose of fighting the enemy, and not of retreating into the neighboring marsh, the inhabitants of which from the very outset have reproached us with having separated ourselves into an exclusive group, and with having chosen the path of struggle instead of the path of conciliation. And now some among us begin to cry out, let us go into the marsh, and when we begin to shame them, they retort, what backward people you are. Are you not ashamed to deny us the liberty to invite you to take a better road? So the better road that we are taking as we are transiting from one moment to the other moment through elections. In 1994, we said the phases of our national democratic revolution, the first phase was to build your committees in communities, was to build your SGBs in schools, was to build your CPFs across issues of security. Was saying in the second, more radical phase of the national democratic revolution, let's defend our democracy. Let's ensure that we are continuing to advance our constitutional democracies. We're saying as the African National Congress, we have got 6 priorities, which is to build South Africa and have a job plan, which is to invest into our industries, rebuild them properly and create jobs. The third priority, which is to invest in our people by ensuring that our people get the necessary education, the necessary skills, and they are also being supported in their small businesses and so on. We're saying let's reduce the cost of pricing along the living conditions of our people. Let's look into the issues of food. Let's look into the issues of cost across the communities of the Free State. We're saying that let's build one Africa. Let's ensure that there is international solidarity as the African National Congress continue to rebuild the country of South Africa. We're saying let us not allow ourselves to be fooled by manifestos written from Stellenbosch that come across as if they are manifestos that come out of our communities. We are saying that all young people must be able to go out now, join the election structures of the ANC, join the committees of the ANC, advance door to doors and deepen the struggle by going to each and every household and ensuring that each and every house that is supported by the gains of the African National Congress through electricity, through water and sanitation connections, through the social grants, through the health that they receive, we must be able to defend those particular things. The DA and Action SA have signed a charter which they call a multi-party charter. That is not a multi-party charter, it's an Oppenheimer charter which seeks to sustain the current racial inequality in our country, which also seeks to declare the ANC as their strategic enemy. As the African National Congress, we are continuing to say, let's build a national democratic society. Let's work on the dimensions that are found in the national question, which is poverty, which is race inequality, which is underdevelopment. Let's work on those particular issues. And these issues are issues that we have managed to already start a process of reviving them, transforming them, and ensuring that our people are able to benefit. And lastly, we also want to encourage both Thabiso, Mokhatla, and Mekhakhao not to be used by those who are controlling industries in order to be their voices, but they've got a responsibility to come back into the youth league, to come back into the ANC and defend the gains of our democracy. In the ANC, we are volunteers. We know they get paid for the positions where they are, but in the African National Congress, we are doing it voluntarily without expecting any form of profit or any form of benefit, because this organization that we're representing, it's an organization of the people. It is our heritage. We must be able to rebuild it, transform it into what we want as young people of the Free State. And we are very much sure that out of the registered population, which is 1.4 million, the African National Congress is going to receive not less than 900,000 voters, and will also be able to advance the aspiration and needs of those who might be voting for DA, who might be voting for Action SA, because we know during their door-to-doors and during their campaigns, they are giving people money in order to people to vote for them, taking advantage of their conditions. But we are saying that we are confident and we are cruising nicely. We've got nothing to worry about. And lastly, we know your media houses such as Central SA are making strategic interventions in ensuring that we no longer read or get the views of Mail and Guardian, News 24 as the only correct voices or views in this country. And we wish you well as you grow your media house. We are here to support it. The municipality where I am is a municipality that we are going to transform. We are positive. Whether there are challenges or not, it is challenges that we are capable enough to deal with. We are going to deal with them. They are not difficult. They just need commitment, and the commitment is there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mayor Xolani Tseletsele. And this has been a very insightful and very important and at times an emotional debate with Mayor Xolani Tseletsele representing the African National Congress, Honorable Karabo Kgakgaout representing the Democratic Alliance, and Mr. Thabiso Mokhatla representing the Action SA. And he has sent us his apology for disconnecting because where he is, there seems to be connectivity problems. But we will engage with him another time on another slot. But for now, the interview, the debate has been very insightful, has been very good. We hope that our viewers have had an opportunity to gauge for themselves which of these political parties will best represent their interests when they decide to cast their vote on the 27th, 28th, and 29th of May. And we would also like to thank you, our viewers, for having tuned in. We have a record 700 viewers online on YouTube. We would just like to request all of you to please subscribe to our YouTube channel that you are watching on right now, so that we also grow as a channel, so that we can also be able to do more of this kind of interactions for your benefit, for our benefit, and for the benefit of the growth of the diverse voices that we need to hear in our country. Having said that, thank you very much. We are out, and we will see you again in the next week.